To order on January 7th, 2025. May we have the roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Bacon. Here. Mr. Baoki. Present. Mr. DeCosta.
Here, January 7th, 2025. We have the roll call, please?
Okay. Mr. Erbaldinger. Present. Mr. Lawrence. Present. President Martin.
Present. We have no one for public comment, so we will go right to the council meeting. No. Before Mr. Corbel speaks, I just wanted to say that Ops and Policy was the first committee to start with the new design for committees, and everything was nice. So I know some people had questions, and let's just give it 6 months and evaluate. But it seemed like a real easy process. Not a lot of people are talking at once. You know how we all like to get in on everything, so I know. Okay. Mr. Corbel, are you with us?
I am.
Okay, would you please talk to us about the information for resignation?
I'm sorry, did you ask me to talk about the resignation?
Yes. Please, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, things were just choppy there for a second, that's all. So council, I was asked by President Martin to take a look and at the resignation letter received from Council Member Watkins, and then to make a recommendation as to what a timeline would look like. So under the borough code, we have 45 days from receipt to accept a resignation, and then 30 days thereafter to appoint a new member of council. Based on the date of receipt of Mr. Watkins' resignation letter, it appears to me that the most prudent course of action is for council to proceed in a manner where you will be in a position to vote at your business meeting in February to appoint a new person to Mr. Watkins' seat. The steps involved there are as follows. Number one, you at least have to accept his resignation at one of those meetings. I would suggest we do it at the next meeting, and that'll give you 30 days. And then two, I would suggest that you discuss and come up with a process this evening for an appointment. I think in the past, and I don't know if anybody can recall or was on council before. Mr. Lawrence, maybe when we replaced Ms. Sawiski upon her resignation from council. But basically, I believe we informed the public that there was a vacancy, asked for applications, resumes, etc. And then I believe council scheduled a time to review them and or interview those folks. You could do it at a committee meeting like tonight in February, and then you would be in a position to appoint at the February meeting. That individual will, upon the affirmative vote of council, they can be sworn in at that meeting. That would be the February business meeting, or at a future time. thereafter, the mayor can issue the oath of office as we do in the years where the mayor is not on the ballot. You can also have a magistrate or a judge come as well. But that's it in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer questions or entertain any other thoughts on the matter at this point.
Mr. Oberdinger
Yeah.
has his hand up.
Yeah, I actually was the one who was appointed when Nina resigned.
Yes.
And at that time, what you did is you advertised it. Every candidate had 5 minutes to introduce himself or herself. And I believe we had 3 candidates, a lady, Ray Kotler, I think it was, and myself. And then council voted immediately after that. And I think I got sworn in after that as well.
Yeah.
So we did it like in one go.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, you could do that. You certainly could do it. I think the difference, though, there is they may have done that I'm not sure if it was at a business meeting or a committee meeting, but we had, in the past, our committee meetings were advertised as potential business meetings, but you can do it at the business meeting. We could do it right at the top of the business meeting. The person could take their spot, their oath and their seat right after, and then you could just go right through the agenda at that point, if that's council's pleasure, for sure.
Going to ask Mr. Abrams to let us know what the procedure is for the advertising, please.
We can, honestly, it can be done however council wishes. There are no requirements. If you'd like it published in the paper, we can do that. We can certainly put it out through our regular channels, website, Savvy Citizen. Otherwise, we're seeking a candidate to fill the seat for the remaining year, for the rest of the term. Again, that would be a council decision. And Mr. Corbel, for clarification,
Mhm.
when the advertisement for the agenda setting workshop meetings, those are also advertised as potential business.
Oh,
So we're
great.
good
That's
about
good to
everything.
know. Yep. Perfect.
Did I see any other hands up? Mr. Bacon?
Having not been through this process before, I feel like it would be nice if we could take it as slow as reasonably possible, where maybe we don't have the pressure of someone being sworn in and everything at the same meeting that we're voting for the candidate selection. And it would be my preference that we have just not that like immediate pressure and kind of maybe weird atmosphere in the room, or just sort of competitiveness over it, if it could be avoided.
Well, I like the idea of whoever suggested to have the people come to the next, the first February meeting and do the 5-minute talk. We will have their resumes by then or in letter of intent. And then we have a week or so to think about it and then do the vote and I guess the swearing in if you felt like it at the business meeting. And Mr. Corbel, that has to happen at a business meeting, is that correct?
Correct. What do you mean? The swearing
The
in?
final vote.
Oh, the vote. Yes, the vote for sure. But swearing in, it does not have to occur at a public meeting. It can occur off-site, not at a meeting. If that was, I would probably suggest that you maybe just leave that open a bit and, let the candidates decide what they want to do. Because if you're following what President Martin said, there's a pretty strong likelihood that you may know if folks are talking who may have votes and who may not. So you can always talk to that person in advance if you wanted to. So as to what they wanted to do with respect to having an oath or not.
Mr. Oberdinger, you had your
I
hand.
was actually suggesting the same thing what you did. We should have the interview session at the next workshop meeting and then do the voting at the business meeting. And like Steve said, swearing in doesn't matter if the candidate is maybe not present, or we can talk to the candidate how they want to do it.
Mr. DeCrosta, your hand was up?
Just so I'm clear, because this position would be filling Mr. Watkins' position. If this person wished to stay on council afterwards, they'd have to run for election in this next cycle, correct?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Watkins' current term is to expire at the end of the year. So this person would be appointed simply to fill the remainder of his term. And if that person was interested in continuing, they would have to follow all the appropriate steps to have their name appear on the ballot this year.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, I would just make this, just to make sure everything's real clear. Yes, let's advertise it. I would go a little overboard in the advertising rather than less. I would include deadlines for written submission time. Eastern Standard Time. Giving us probably a week to look at the applications. And then, yes, we left it. We started in the meeting, so 3 of them came up, they had 5 minutes, no questions. They went on their way, and I believe that night we voted. It was not a particularly challenging vote.
So you're suggesting advertising in the newspaper as well as Savvy Citizen and the website? Okay,
So just so I'm clear, Jack, you're looking at January 28th would be when the resumes and applications would be due for the next workshop meeting, correct?
I don't have a calendar in front of me, but it sounds like that's what.
Yeah, so the 4th
Yep.
is our next workshop
Correct.
meeting.
Okay.
yeah.
So the 28th is the Tuesday before.
Well, then, is everybody okay with advertising in the newspaper as
Yeah.
well? And then these dates? So at the next business meeting, we will accept, or talk about accepting Mr. Watkins' resignation. Sadly, I may add. Okay, if there's nothing else then,
I just want to make sure that we're in line. I will set the advertisement to go for the 16th, which is the next available newspaper, because it comes out every Thursday, with the deadline of the 28th for submission to this office, distribute to council, no later than the 29th or 30th, if we're setting the 28th as a deadline, February 4th for interviews, and then we can set when we do the agenda and post it, we can post it with the possibility, considering a vote. And if council chooses not to, then we still have the 19th to do a vote. If for some reason council, things run long or there's indecision after the candidates present.
Mr. Erbeldinger?
I have a question for Steve. I looked up my calendar. The business meeting in January where we would accept is on the 15th, but the February business meeting is on the 19th. So basically we would need more than 30 days. Is that a problem?
No. So what we would do is in the motion on the 15th, we would say that council accepts the resignation, and when we could set the date forward, right, as of this date, which would be a few days later, so we have the 30 days still, because we can't wait until February 19th. That's too long. So that's just that's what I've done in other communities in the past, and it's been not a problem.
Good with that then?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Corbel.
Yep, very
Then
welcome.
Let's move on then to operations and policy, Mr. Lawrence.
All right, there's not much to say. It's probably more of a little dry run for us to figure out what this is gonna be like. 32 minutes? 32 minutes, I think it was. The only thing that really is of significance to bring up, we did look over the applicant information to the EAC. I think everyone, there were 3 of us on the committee and the manager was here. Everyone recommends that we would accept her application.
So you received a new resume from her, our new statement of interest. Okay.
So if anyone has, unless anyone has questions or thoughts, I think we could let her. Other than that, we just kind of talked a little bit about what it's like to do this, and that was about it. Thank you.
Does that end your
That
committee?
ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Erbeldinger, may we have finance, please?
We didn't really have a relevant finance committee in that new system. The two new points are new. However, I recommend to follow our manager's recommendation to accept the Siemens payment and that public hearing. That makes sense as well to me. But we did not talk about it in committee. It's just brand new stuff.
Does anyone have any questions?
Oh,
We're
that's it.
okay. Yeah.
That's it for finance.
Okay, then moving on to borough property, Mr. Bacon.
Thank you. We have also not had a proper new format borough property meeting yet. I believe our main item tonight is the bid opening discussion for the Steps and Walkways grant. If Mr. Brett could please lead us through that.
Good evening. We did receive bids on the walkway on December 10th. We had 4 contractors request bids. You received bids from 2 contractors, Cronin Enterprises and Dunright Construction. Cronin's bid was $463,950 for the base bid. At alternate number 1, which was installing sidewalk leading to Forest Drive, was $50,730. At alternate 2 was demolishing the steps along Avenue B, was $15,000, and at alternate 3 was installing aluminum handrail in lieu of steel handrail, and that was $147,000. Did check the bids, and at competitive bids, was a pretty big spread between the two. Dunright's bid for the base bid, and I handed this out on the handout, was $649,066.50. At alternate was $80,670. At alternate 2 was $19,187. At alternate 3 was $50,470. Cronin would be the low bidder when you add it.
So why is there such a significant difference on alternative 3 between the two? It seems so odd.
Sometimes the contractors have the materials. You do see that occasionally on things like materials such as handrail. They fabricate that in the field typically, so.
So even with that $100,000 difference, all of the jobs come out less than the second, I guess. Yeah.
Yep. And we have dealt with both contractors in the past. Cronin's done a couple concrete projects currently.
Are these co-stars companies? Because we only have 2 bids. Do we need 3?
Because you had 4 requests, 2 bidders, and we did extend the bids a number of times.
That's great. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Just to clarify what you mean with flush, like if you look, there are actually 2 steps. There's, if behind you, there's this wooden frame, and then there's this bump above the camera.
Yeah, we're still in the steps.
That's the next one.
Oh, sorry.
We're on the steps right now. So.
Can you just reiterate where exactly the aluminum handrail is going to be for alternate 3, please?
It'd be instead of putting steel handrail that's painted.
Okay, so every one of these areas would be upgraded for lower maintenance, presumably longer life.
Yeah, and we always bid the aluminum as a alternate to switch it because sometimes projects out of budget. So we bid steel as the base bid, and aluminum because there's less maintenance for it long term. This was a competitive number, so.
And then I think, pretty sure we're all clear on this, but just maybe if Mr. Abrams can explain one more time the fact that we're coming in under the grant amount. Am I correct in understanding that there's really nothing we can do with that difference?
What my recommendation has been is that once that council approve the award to Cronin, which is $676,680 when you add all the ad alternates in. And once we're done with all the fees, any permitting, engineering fees, and take that from the grant, we see what's left, because we will have time through 2026 when the grant award ends. If there's enough, we can still add in, potentially look to add in another project within that same scope, within the steps and walkways piece, if there's another section that fits in with the amount available.
Okay, thank you. And one moment for Mr. Erbaldinger. Is there a potential that we could use some of that for upkeep on the current steps short of like full replacement, or is that not within the scope of the grant?
The grant is for construction.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Erbaldinger, do you still have questions?
Since I was not part of the board property meeting, obviously, I'm confused. Is this a Woodside to Woodside and the one, whatever, the Park to Sharon Drive? So both of them are in the same bid?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we know what, can you remind us what the amount of the grant is?
60 or something, 790?
Right around there.
Okay.
760, right around there, yes. Grant was modified right after you got it to include.
All right, I believe that concludes everything with the steps.
And just on page 7 of the engineer's report, it is $726,307.
I'm sorry to
26.
interrupt everything, but one more question. So are we doing the alternates or are we even like aluminum
Yes.
over steel? I guess it's more corrosion resistant. All right.
Okay, next item is the interior renovations for the sound dampening. Everyone should have the LSSC statement on that as well. Further details?
We did advertise for the wall project. You received a letter bid originally for around 80,000. Put the same specs together that you would put out by letter bid. And this was another one we had to extend a few times in order to get a little bit of interest in it. You did have 2 contractors request specs, and you did get a bid from Swede. Worked in a number of our municipalities. They do, work, maintenance work, smaller projects. So you did get a bid for 29,950, and then at alternate 1 was modify existing doorway trim to make flush with the wall for 9,600, and then at alternate 2 was add sound insulation within the cavity wall for 3,500. I definitely think you want to do that at alternate trim if it's something that you would like to see. Suite walls.
Can I ask my question? 2 questions. Like when you look at it, there are 2 steps. When you say flush with the wall, do you mean with the wall where the TV is mounted to, or just that, because there like a bump between the camera and the TV?
The wall where the TV's not.
Everything would be flush, you wouldn't even see.
It will be the same as it is on both sides.
And are we going to do both, like the library to the community room and then this one, both of them, or just?
Correct.
And the sound, like,
The door between, the sliding doorway between the library and the community room will be removed, and at alternate 1 will make it flush, as Mr. Brett described. At alternate 2 would be adding the sound dampening to the areas above on both sides of the community room.
So at the community room door, not this door.
they will keep the look, but they just add somehow something in.
I believe we would end up, the original specs had us actually having to drywall instead of the polycarbonate panels.
They charge us $3,500 to drywall that entire thing.
Well, the drywalling's in the base bid price,
Oh, okay. So basically the whole wall will be just white and flush and okay. And this one, we will do the soundproofing too, or?
this wall?
Yeah.
That I would have. I'll get back to you on that one to make sure. I need to check the plan. Oh, the other wall, yes, I make sure on this.
Sorry for asking questions.
Mr. Mayorski?
Yeah, just might be a minor point, but that room is, I thought that was redesignated the council annex room. So I just think we should refer to it as such.
At this time, until we remove the sign and figure out and make arrangements to repaint the wall.
Any further questions? Okay, I believe there was also an email from Mr. Abrams about the geothermal service plan. Do we want to bring that up now, or can that wait for, should, details?
So, as council knows, we'd engaged with a company by the name of CTI to reduce the rust and prevent any further damage to the geothermal system. They've been working on it diligently, sending reports every couple of weeks. Rust continues to reduce. But over the 8-week period that their initial contract was, that was then going to go into a quarterly, they're still finding a significant amount of rust in some other pieces that they feel need to be monitored more closely. So they are recommending, and Mr. Smith and I concur, that changing it from quarterly to monthly for the 2025 makes sense, so that we can get the system clean after 6 years of nothing happening, and then reevaluate. Hopefully everything will be in good shape by then. We can go back to the quarterly. So that's just going to be a $2,300 increase to that. And that's right now, especially beginning of the year, there are absolutely funds available in the building maintenance.
Mr. Mayorki?
And that will be a motion.
It does not need to be. There's allocated funds under building maintenance.
Considering the budget discussions that we had and how tight the budget was going to be, I think it would be worthwhile for us to bring that to a vote so that it's official. And if you could provide where that funding is coming from and what other things would be coming out of that fund control, so that we make sure that we do have sufficient funds through the end of the year.
Certainly.
Great, thank you. That concludes Borough Property.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Moving on to planning and zoning, Mr. DeCosta?
Only that Planning Commission plans on meeting at the end of this month with some of the items that we've discussed with them. So hopefully I'll have something to report back next month. Otherwise, I have nothing else to report, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. DeCosta. Then we're moving on to Public Works. Mr. Bacon?
All right, Mr. Brett, are you able to speak to the road paving list, please?
Over the budget period, we had provided the update to your road rating table, and we had met with the manager, and I believe this is the list that final list. I just wanted to make sure because I want to send notices out to the utility companies, the lines, things like that, that somebody's going to do maintenance to. Not contacted the borough yet that they have time to do that. Potentially participate in any repaving of roads that would happen to going to be work on a gas line. So the roads that were listed 1 through 8 was Avenue L, Avenue B, Avenue A, Avenue D, Berkeley, Carl, and Cascade, and the blocks are listed on that list.
Berkeley said no, has no listed, correct?
Had no outlet to Cedar for Berkeley.
Actually, there was an update because we split
Okay.
Berkeley
Oh, we did.
in our conversation. The no and the yes is whether or not it fit within the funding
Oh, yes.
based on the estimates. So just to further clarify and based on the information that I included in the packet, the recommendation is that we include all the roads that were listed, of which Berkeley is actually split into two. And let LSSE, Mr. Brett, determine which ones would be the add alternates so that council then has a choice based on how bids come in. And then per his recommendation from prior meetings, whatever council then chooses to, once we have our actual dollars to assign, would then be prioritized for the following year.
I had a comment because the last time we talked, this wasn't finalized and we would have time for discussion. So for instance, Avenue L is listed as rated 5. We're not even done with the 3s and the 4s. So my suggestion would be to take, and there's another one on here that's a 5, Bevington or the Cascade, number 8. Now they're short roads, but rather than do half of Berkeley, because that's been on the agenda for 2 years, that's a 4. Could we do half of it one time and then come down and do half of it again? So the whole road's done and take off the 2 5s. And then my other suggestion is to not have the alleys be considered alternates and flip it. So have the alleys at the top and the resurface as the alternates. That's just what my suggestion.
Madam President, if I can clarify, and this has been brought up before, and I don't know if any of it's on that second page they had, but Avenue L, B, and A and D are all on there because of either other agreements or other paving sewer work that's been done, where either we've asked them not to, the gas company came in, we asked them not to pave so that we could do other work, and the agreement was to split the cost of the pavement. So some of those first 3 to 4 do, actually the first 4 do need to be done.
I thought you
or-
said they don't have to be done this year.
Those first ones, when we were first going through the numbers, those first 4 do because of other construction work that had happened that we are committed to.
I can say now Avenue B is horrible, but the whole thing is then we're going to go against what council wants, is to work on the worst roads first, which are these alleys that have never been paved. And just a side note, I would like to point out, is there any way we can name these unnamed 1, 2, and 5 roads sometime? Just, this doesn't have anything to do with the paving, but it would be nice and put a little sign up. But anyway, that was my suggestion.
Yeah, the alleyways, as far as how the base bid is split up, we can review them, X them. I think if I recall correctly, if you look back at the recommended with the initial study, always recommend a blend in doing some streets so that they're getting a little bit of everything. So we definitely would do that. Last year you took a big swing on the alleys. Some of these alleys obviously need done, so we could recommend a mix between the two.
Well, I'd like a heavier mix on the alleys, if you please.
Madam President, the reason these are separated like this isn't in an order. The alleys are separate because we cannot use liquid fuels money, which we're using to, so.
I
those-
understand that. I just want to make sure that's real clear.
Mr. Berkey?
Yeah, could you explain to me why Avenue D was, we told the utility companies not to pave Avenue D as they're supposed to?
That was a decision that was made prior to me. I believe it had to, my understanding, and this was made prior, is that there was additional sewer work, camera work that we needed to do. So we asked that the road be left open so that they were not paving and then we were not tearing it up immediately thereafter.
It seems to me that was probably not a good decision. What would we be, when have we torn up a road to do camera work?
I said it was, whether it was camera or whether there was additional tearing up, because camera work, you're right, would not tear up, but if there was sewer work that needed to be done.
Speak into the mic.
I'm sorry, they would need to dig up the road based on the camera work. That was
Actually, Mr. Baoki, it is item 1 on the engineer's report on page 1.
I've tried the camera, but again, it has a lateral that's obstructing the camera work. Other end, you cannot get a camera in. There's a big. We're requesting a letter bid now for somebody actually go in and cut, go out and to jackhammer out that. Nothing even to get it televised.
What was the work that was done on Avenue D?
The gas company had.
Was the gas company?
Yeah, they had replaced their lines, but the borough has had an issue prior to us that you were trying to identify. I think you bid. Got the information from Glenn. We could not. So Public Works went in to televise it. They could not. We had a contractor come out, and that's when these obstructions were. That's why when we had asked, okay, what is the tapes? Like what is wrong with the storm sewer or the sanitary sewer? Because if you go down, that street has the sidewalks sinking. As you go. You don't know, in fact, that you're actually having involvement there, but it looks like something is compromised. And until we get to the bottom of that, we do not want to have the street paved. We would probably bid that this year, even as an ad alternate. But if you do pave it, they're going to pay 50%, which probably we're only going to pave part of the road, so it may have been end up with a better product.
So to clarify just a little bit further, some of the ones that would definitely be in the add alternate category, so we can pick and choose depending on the final numbers, would be Berkeley, Avenue D, and presumably an assortment of some of the smaller items to fit just potential funding.
Recommend, and we've talked about this, overbidding. There's oil could be dropping. It's not as much state work out this year. So if numbers drop from where it was last year, hopeful that happens this year, that oil prices come down and we get a little better pricing.
One more question. So the storm sewer bid would include paving? It would not include paving. So we're covering the cost of the paving.
Always try to bid the paving, not in. About a 15 to 20% savings by bidding with the road contract versus doing. A few that do both, but not many.
All right, is everyone satisfied? Okay. Thank you. I believe that covers all of Public Works unless there's any other items. All right.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Let's move on to public safety. Mr. Bioki.
Thank you, President Martin. So I have two potential motions to move forward to council. One is for the ordinance to institute the drop program as a condition of the collective bargaining agreement between the borough and the police department. That information was in your packet, and if there's any questions on that, hear those now. Ovaldinger?
By number, or I have a question about number 2.
Yeah, we didn't get the number two yet.
Talk into the microphone.
Sorry, I was confused if he was talking about both at the same time or
No.
just one. I'm okay with one.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay, I think.
Okay. The second is for traffic study at Newport and Ardmore Road, Ardmore Boulevard. Again, that's also in your packet with a description of the reason for it. And we've been looking at that for the last year. And for a variety of reasons, other priorities that kept getting pushed back. So we'd like to do that now, Mr. Erbaldinger.
Yes, I'm questioning the necessity because we did a traffic study on Fillmore, on Ardmore, which arguably is a much busier intersection and would deserve lights probably more urgently than that intersection. And we did the traffic study said it's a good idea, and then PennDOT just declined it. So why should we do a traffic study there and go through the same motion? We pay $5,000, we go to PennDOT, and PennDOT obviously does not want traffic lights on Ardmore.
There's a difference in the line of sight at that road versus Fillmore. So and they also did not want to restrict the study for Fillmore was to restrict the turning, and they refused to restrict the turning.
I think we did both. We did
both.
Yeah.
But it was all part of the same study. So this is a little different because of the angle of the road at that location. Bacon?
I'm 100% in support of something to address that intersection and looking into it, beginning the process. I just question if we are potentially doing this earlier than could be actionable. My thoughts being that to actually do anything with that intersection, if it's on our bill, is going to be something we can't pay for anytime soon. And I'm assuming there's a lot of state red tape and everything with Ardmore. Is this something that we could maybe look at addressing through like our state legislators? Or at least having them on board before we start this process, so we have some idea of what support we might have for potential next steps.
I would suggest that unless we have a traffic study to determine if that is a possibility, it would be difficult to get their support, and that they would probably tell us we need to do a traffic study. I mean, that's my impression. Mr. Brett, would you care to comment on that?
Would say no matter what, if you want to do work at an intersection, especially as the intersection of Ardmore, you need to do a traffic analysis, do a traffic study up with what the recommendations are. Make sure DOT will permit it to be considered, and then apply for grants. Go through that process. Back with, because the study may say that something can be done. State may still come back with they won't support it, and if they don't support it, then really is step one just to see if it's possible.
Herbal dinner?
Question, one for you. Is there any informal way? I think PennDOT really wants traffic on Ardmore to flow as fast as they can, and unfortunately for Forest Hills. And we did over and over, we asked about things to slow down traffic on Ardmore, and they always denied it. Is there any informal way? I know traffic study is the ideal way to do it, to show PennDOT there's a need. But my experience with PennDOT is they don't want to do anything on Ardmore to slow down traffic. They don't like lights and they won't approve it. So my next question is, it's $5,000, money is tight. In my mind, we are potentially wasting $5,000, and we don't even know where the $5,000 is coming from. Is there any informal way to do that without a traffic study?
Haven't had a discussion with PennDOT yet about this, then that would be the first step, is to have a pre-application meeting before you would do the analysis. Have the traffic engineer there, discuss what the concern is from the municipality, have the municipality there. See what PennDOT says about how they want the study done. That's what, identify how they want you to look at it. Identify right there that you can look at it, but in fact, they will not consider it. And then point at that point. So it would be the first step anyway, in a traffic analysis. You can make that a condition.
I,
Do that first.
my recommendation to council is to do as you just said. We do that pre-application meeting and then determine if you want to do a traffic study or not.
Be okay with that?
Well, and who should be in attendance at that?
I would attend, and then Mike goes with the district all the time.
What would that cost be?
As far as the meeting goes,
So, I mean, there will be a cost to the meeting as well. Okay,
just because they're going to want to see a diagram.
Bacon?
Just suggestions, involvement too, that we get, Representative Salisbury aware of this. I believe there's something that she pushed to have done with the East Pittsburgh intersection, just before the bridge. And there was some sort of additional push to the process, with evaluating that. So I think we should have her involved.
Well, we could certainly do that, but I think we should do the informal meeting first and then work with that.
It'll probably be virtual. They meet rarely.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody
Mark?
okay?
Okay, so then we'll table this until we can get the study. And so is everybody okay with spending $500 to have the preliminary study done?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so can we make that a motion to?
Unless Mr. Corbel believes otherwise, this kind of fits within the general scope of the engineering piece that for $500 for a meeting, we shouldn't necessarily need to make a motion. Council can authorize Mr. Brett to move forward with that and schedule it.
Okay, I didn't want to be seem hypocritical because I said we should make a motion for the other 20, whatever,
We
$2,300.
also know, I said, we don't need to make a motion for that either. If you want
I
to,
know.
if you want to go through the formality on both, you may.
I would like to, just to keep it all even. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Bioki. Is there any old business to discuss? And new business? Mr. Abrams?
I would just like to note that while Policy and Ops did have their committee meeting today and all the other committees are going to be coming up, that if you viewed tonight's packet, there were some differences in the setup, and that I am going to, because committees will be meeting, we will have more information. I'm going to be making an effort to provide as much information as possible in the legislative request form. So that should be able to answer a lot of questions ahead of time. And please just make sure you review that in preparation for the meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Abrams. If there's nothing else, then the meeting's adjourned.